and you're not going to believe this. So we have the Scandinavian, okay, knight to c3, and I'm going to bet you guys will you'll never guess what move my opponent played next. What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be answering 3 questions that were asked by my Patreon members, and one of those was related to tilt and how do I handle burnout and or tilt. It's funny that they asked this because just yesterday I played a game which moves to the top or very close to the top of the list of the most tilting games that I have ever played. I'm telling you, I was extremely tilted, and I'm going to show you that game in just a second. Now, before we get into that, if you have questions that you would like to ask me and have them answered in a video like this, check out the link below to Patreon. I'm going to be doing this every month. Patreon members can ask questions, and I will answer them just like in this video. But having said that, let's go ahead and talk about this first question related to burnout and tilt. We're going to come back to the tilt when I show you this game in just a second. Regarding burnout, they were asking specifically about Grandmaster training and how do I handle burnout and that kind of thing. One of the most difficult things for me is when I spend a lot of time training and learning and practicing, and then I go to a tournament, like my most recent tournament, for those of you who follow that, you know what I'm talking about, and have a really, really bad performance. And it's very easy to start questioning yourself and go like, okay, am I even learning anything? Am I going the wrong way? Like, what's going on? And I like to remind myself that chess is a very complicated game. There's lots of little details that you have to fix. And just because you have a bad tournament doesn't mean that you're not improving. So I like to think of it like when you're fixing a car. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with fixing cars. I'm not a mechanic by any means, but sometimes, you know, something breaks and you have to fix one piece, but the engine doesn't quite work right away. And you have to keep fixing things and keep fixing things. And eventually, let's say there's like 5 things that were wrong with your car. You fix all 5, and then, okay, now the engine's working. Now the car is running smoothly. And all 5 of those were important, but you didn't really start to see the results until you fixed all 5 of them. I think chess is kind of the same way. Like, you can learn an opening really, really well, but if you still have problems with tactics or blundering or whatever the case may be, you're going to have to fix that too before you start to see the results. And so that's kind of how I'm treating it for me personally. Like, I know I had a really bad tournament, but I also know that I've got to fix quite a few areas, and I'm just going to keep working at the different areas until I feel like I'm, you know, starting to see the results. All right, so the second part of the question is tilt, and this is a very good example. I'm going to show you this game. It was a bullet game. This is going to be a hard game for me to show you guys, but I'm going to do it anyway because it is what it is. So here we go. I was white. I was 2460, playing against 2500. So he's about 100 points higher than me. International master, very strong player. But let me show you how this game starts, and you're not going to believe this. So we have the Scandinavian. Okay, knight to c3, and I'm gonna bet you guys you'll never guess what move my opponent played next. Go ahead, pause if you want, write something in the comments, see if you're right. But I'm gonna guess nobody's gonna suggest the move that was played in the game. And all right, if you're ready, if you've had your guess, you've made your prediction. Here we go. The move that was played in the game: queen takes g2. Now, if you're wondering what in the world is going on, I'm assuming, and I don't know for sure, but a really common move here is queen a5, queen d6, or queen d8. Those are the kind of the top 3 moves that you'll see in this position. And a lot of times as white, it's pretty safe to pre-move knight f3 or to pre-move d4. And I'm suspecting that this guy was thinking that, okay, if somebody pre-moves d4 or knight f3, and you play queen takes g2, like let's say I move my knight here, you could just take my rook for free, right? Or if I play d4, again, you could take my rook for free. So probably has a lot of games where, you know, at the 2500 level, people are pre-moving these kind of moves. That's my guess. Anyway, I was not pre-moving, so I took the queen for free. And at this point in the game, I was like, oh, cool. I got a free win, you know? Like, it's a free queen. The game's over, right? Or it should have been over. I mean, I was expecting him to resign. He didn't resign. He plays a move, and I'm like, okay, let's play. So what's the rule when you're ahead so much material? By the way, I got the queen for a pawn. Just a pawn, not even a piece. And this is incredible, right? There's no way in the world that I should lose this game. Like 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to win this game with the queen. Okay, I'm not that bad of a player. Anyway, let's see what happened. So game goes on, and I'm like, I mean, I'm up a queen. All I have to do is trade some pieces, and it's just over. So here, traded a bishop. All right, cool. I'm going to keep castling. I'm going to put my rooks in the center. Let's bring the knight in. Okay, let's go here. Let's try to trade. Of course, he doesn't want to trade. Good idea. Let's bring my knight here. I mean, look at this position. Just look at this. Even if I didn't have a queen, I'm in a good position. But I have an extra queen. It's all right. Game goes on. I'm like, let's just trade another piece. Maybe not the best trade because it did let the bishop out. And now I played a move. By the way, I'm moving quickly. He's moving quickly. You know, it's a bullet game. I played this move. And, you know, in the game, I was just thinking, like, I can't believe we're still playing this. Let me just go and checkmate the king. There's going to be mate here. The knight's coming in, and it's just checkmate. That's what I saw. Obviously, it doesn't work because there's nothing defending my knight. So I blundered a knight. Now, at this point in the game, by the way, I blundered the knight and also my rook is trapped. So it was kind of like a double blunder there a little bit. But I'm like, it's fine. I'm still up a queen. But, you know, let me just back up. This was a crucial moment in the game because when this kind of thing happens, something in your brain goes, okay, what's going on? Am I actually going to lose this game? No. But you start to like think about like, I'm up a queen. How is this happening? How is this game not over yet? That's what happened to me, right? Like it kind of got in my head, right? I'm like, all right, let me keep playing. Let me go over here. Let me attack the king, right? Let me attack the king. Let me trade another piece. Okay, let's trade some more. Okay. And right here, I'm like, wait a second. What's going on here? This looks pretty scary. There's a rook here I have to watch out for. There's a pawn here. That's checkmate. All this stuff starts going through my head. I'm also kind of trying to think, like, can I just checkmate somehow? Getting a little bit lower on time. Right now we're below 30 seconds, right? So the pressure is kind of mounting a little bit. I played this move, which is not a great move because my king is really kind of boxed in. I wanted to defend the pawn. Okay, c3. Now I'm like, whoa. This is checkmate, right? Like if I move my rook somewhere, like this or like this, that's checkmate. So now I'm having a little bit of panic happening, right? 23 seconds. I'm like, I'm about to get mated. I was thinking about I could bring my king over, but then this rook can come over. And I'm like, well, maybe there's just perpetual, but I don't know. That still looks kind of risky. So I went for the check first. And now I'm thinking like, okay, this is still checkmate. I got to watch out for that. My rook's under attack. My queen's under attack. I don't like this position. I'm low on time, 21 seconds. I'm like, let's just take this, try to simplify here. And then I realized, like, wait a second. Even after that, I still have the same problem. I'm still getting mated, right? I guess I could have played king b1. Now that I'm looking at this, looks like a better move. Although, then there's still rook check. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, I played this move. Look at this, guys. I'm just losing everything. I'm just falling apart. And I'm low on time. Lose this. And I'm just lost. I'm completely losing. I was up a queen and now I'm down a piece and losing and I'm low on time. And then he trades and it's over. It's over. I lost the game. Like that. And I got to tell you, after this game, like mentally, I was not in a good place. Like it affected me big time. And, you know, in my mind, I was replaying it. I actually went back and looked at it. I was like, you know, how did this happen? Like, look at this position. I'm up a queen. I'm up a queen. I have lead in development. I have a great position. And yeah, I mean, it's bullet. Like crazy stuff happens. And that's what happened here. And yeah, so this completely tilted me. I had to stop. I think maybe I played another game or two. I don't remember. But like, I was thinking about this for like the rest of the day. And then, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that really, really tilts you. And I wish I could say that I have a good solution. I don't. Like I'm still bothered by this, even if it's been a couple days. I'm still bothered by it. You know, looking at this game. That's just part of chess. This stuff is going to happen. The best advice I can give you: take a break. Just realize it happens. Hopefully, this game helps you feel better about yourself a little bit. Like it happens to everyone. You know, even I'm sure Magnus and Hikaru and all those guys have moments like this, right? And experiences like this. If you look around enough, you'll find some of those. But happens to everyone. So anyway, that's my story of how I lost being up a queen. So anyway, let's move on to the next question. All right, so the next question was, what do you recommend as black against e4? And what do you recommend as black against d4? So against e4, I really think the Scandinavian is a really good opening to learn. One of the major benefits of this is that it kind of takes your opponent out of their comfort zone. Now, it's not like super rare, like nobody plays it. It's actually quite common. So it's not necessarily so surprising, but what it does do is it puts you in territory that you're familiar with right away. When you play e5, you have no idea what your opponent's going to do. They might be a King's Gambit player. They might be a Danish Gambit player. They might be just a normal Knight f3, Bishop b5, Ruy Lopez kind of guy. They might be Knight f3 Italian game player. They could be a Vienna Gambit player. I mean, there's so many things that they could play. You have no idea, right? So you kind of have to learn a lot of different openings if you're going to play a move like e5. c5 is pretty common, but then Sicilian also has a ton of theory behind it. There's a lot of ways that white can approach the position. It's very, very complicated and tactical and very, very tricky. If you like that, great, go for it. But Scandinavian, you're going to get comfortable with this really quickly. And you can go for the queen takes d5 lines. Knight f6 is kind of a little bit more tricky, but queen takes d5, even though you're violating an opening principle, bringing out your queen too early, this is kind of an exception. And it actually gives you some experience playing with your queen and learning the ways to use your queen early and also be safe, right? So queen a5 is kind of the standard approach. And basically what you're going to do at some point is play c6. And if this bishop ever comes here and starts annoying you, you can always just drop your queen back to c7. This is a really nice square for your queen. The knight can't really do anything. You've got it covered. You've got the diagonal protected here. And if white does try to do something like this and bring the bishop, you can always play e6, bishop d6. Or even if you had to move your queen back to d8, it's not the end of the world. You just move it back. You keep developing. You put your pieces like this. You can even bring this bishop out if you want. I'm not going to go into all the theory and ideas, but it's a good opening. I recommend at least trying this for a little while, see if you like it. And if you do, I think this is a good option. So that's my recommendation against e4. Against d4, this is something that I struggled with for a long, long time as black. I never knew what to play. I used to play d5 for a while. You got to deal with all this Queen's Gambit stuff, and you got to deal with the London, and I had decent success with d5, but then I was experimenting with Knight f6 and the Nimzo Indian, but then they don't have to let you play the Nimzo Indian and Bogo Indian, and maybe it's not as good as the Nimzo, and you have all these things. Anyway, some of you guys know I've recently done the course on the King's Indian, and I've been playing this myself a lot against d4, and I really like it. I've had good results, good experiences with this. I recommend King's Indian. You're going to Fianchetto kettle the bishop. When they play e4, you're going to play d6, and then go from there. Yes, there's some theory that you need to learn, but the general idea is castles, put your knight here, strike back in the center, and play chess from there. So that's my recommendation against e4 and d4. All right, and the third and final question was, do you have any tips on how to improve visualization and calculation skills? So I have Puzzle Rush pulled up here. I'm just going to go ahead and fire it up, and here we go, just as something to kind of talk through as I answer this question. So, when it comes to visualization and calculation skills, my recommendation is get really, really, really good at the basic building blocks before you try to tackle the more complicated problems. So I think some people think that to get really good at visualization and calculation, I have to work on solving these Maton 7 problems. And I don't think that's the correct solution. If you've ever seen someone in school who is trying to learn math, and let's just say that they're not very good at adding and subtracting, but they're trying to learn multiplication and division. Well, you're not going to be very good at multiplying and dividing if you don't know how to add and subtract, right? Same thing, let's say that they're trying to learn fractions, but they don't really know how to multiply and divide. Well, you're not going to have success learning fractions if you can't multiply and divide whole numbers, right? So you got to learn the basics before you can learn the more complicated things. So you have to be really good and be able to see these basic, one move checkmates really quickly, because then when you get those more complicated positions, you're going to put these building blocks together, and that's why you're going to be able to see those things faster, right? So these types of things have to be almost automatic, and then when you get into those more complicated positions, you'll be able to see them better. So as far as tips, I would just say do lots and lots of puzzles, but don't overdo it and jump to the more complicated ones until you get really, really good at the basic ones. So this back rank mate idea has to just be in your head, right? And so all of these should be really easy. Oh, back rank mate. This one, whenever you can get a queen next to the king and it's defended by a piece, I don't have to think about anything else. As long as none of the pieces can take my queen, I know that's the move, right? Again, look, I know this is the move, queen next to the king. Here, I see checks, and I know they're back rank mate. So this is very easy. I don't have to even think about much. I just, sorry, I didn't to do that. So yeah, I guess, just practice tactics. That's the answer. Just lots and lots of tactics, because that's really what visualization and calculating is all about. You have to get really good with these patterns. So like this is another pattern when the queen is trapped. It has nowhere to move. There's only one diagonal. If you can shut that down, guess what? It's trapped, and you're gonna win the queen. So yeah, just focus on the building blocks. Get really, really good at the basics. Do lots and lots of puzzles, tactics, and focus on accuracy over speed. The speed comes later. So yeah, that's my recommendation. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, if you want to ask your own questions for next month's episode, make sure to sign up for Patreon below. And remember, we have our tournament coming up this Saturday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be hosted on Lichess, but the invite link is going to be over on Patreon for my Patreon members. I will see you guys there. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.